He who does not believe in himself always seeks validation in the eyes of others and loses himself in their gaze. Discipline is not born from strength, it is born from order. When life turns into chaos, a person begins to look not for motivation, but for form. They are tired of eternal impulses, of leaps, of promises to themselves that don't survive the morning. It seems to them that they are weak, but in fact they simply haven't built a support. Strength without structure crumbles like water without a shore, and the harder a person tries to pull themselves together, the more they burn out because they are pressuring themselves instead of creating order around them. If you feel that you lack discipline, don't start with willpower. Start with the external. Get up, clean the space where you live. Put your desk, clothes, screen, and thoughts in order. This is not a ritual of cleanliness. It is a way to return clarity to yourself. When everything around is chaotic, consciousness cannot maintain focus. The brain feels disorder as a threat. Any trifle that is out of place reminds you that you are not in control of your life. And until the external world is ordered, the internal one will not become calm. Every time you bring order to at least one thing, you restore self-respect. This is a small act of strength. When you build even a minimal structure, energy begins to flow. The body senses that you have taken responsibility and it stops resisting. Start with the simple. Don't build an ideal schedule. Just decide that the morning belongs to you. Let there be one stable ritual in it. A cup of water, silence, breathing, order around. If you hold the morning, the day submits. If the morning is chaotic, the day is doomed to struggle. Order is not boredom, it is the breath of stability. When everything has a place, a sense of security appears. Security gives energy. Energy gives birth to focus. Focus creates action. Action returns confidence. Everything else is noise. Do not start discipline with slogans. Start with respect, with not breaking promises to yourself. Do not make vows that you know you will not keep. Let it be less, but stable. Even a small step taken every day strengthens you more than 100 promises broken the next day. Stop waiting for inspiration to tidy up. Action itself creates energy. When you clean the table, turn on the light, open the window, it's not about cleaning, but about returning authority. The body reads, "I am acting." The brain begins to believe that you are capable. From this moment, chaos loses its power. The world loves clarity. When everything is in its place inside and out, anxiety disappears. You stop losing energy on unnecessary decisions. You no longer need to choose between now and later. Everything is simple. There is rhythm, there is form, there is you. If you feel you cannot start, begin with one small action that returns your sense of control. This can be order on your phone, a made bed, a cup of water in the morning. This is not a triviality, it is a foundation. Discipline does not begin with great goals. It begins with respect for the small things. Do not try to burn out chaos with effort. It can only be ordered with attention. When you begin to see that everything in life is subject to rhythm, the desire to break yourself disappears. You start to just move. Discipline is not pressure, but a form of inner peace. And one day you notice that everything has become simpler. You no longer need to force yourself, no need to gather yourself, motivate, or coax. There is rhythm, there is order, there is calmness. This is the beginning of discipline, when structure becomes your nature. People rarely understand that the lack of discipline is not laziness, but pain. Under chaos, resistance is almost always hidden, and behind resistance, fatigue. The one who cannot pull themselves together is often not weak-willed, but overloaded. They have lived too long in a regime of pressure, expectations, and comparison. And now any attempt to force themselves causes internal protest. The body no longer believes in promises because it has heard "I'll start tomorrow" too many times and too often seen how tomorrow never comes. To become disciplined, you must first stop breaking yourself. Violence does not create stability, it creates burnout. Every time you tell yourself "I must," you strengthen the internal overseer. And the overseer always provokes rebellion in a person. When we live under pressure, the psyche looks for any opportunity to escape. It sabotages, postpones, loses interest, freezes. And the person calls this procrastination, although in reality, it is a defense mechanism. True discipline is built not on shouting, but on trust. When you stop threatening yourself and start talking to yourself like someone you want to support, energy appears inside. Not out of fear, but out of respect. If you want to become disciplined, stop blaming yourself. First, restore contact with the one who is tired inside. Sit down, be silent, feel your body. Allow yourself not to rush. When you stop running, the brain stops defending itself. A space appears where order can be built. Start with softness. You don't need to do everything at once. One small step is enough. Stable, simple, without drama. People burn out not from volume, but from harshness towards themselves. Make the action easy, but mandatory. Let it be a short warm-up in the morning, 3 minutes of breathing, a small list of 2 tasks that you perform every day. The main thing is not quantity, but rhythm. Rhythm is the cure for internal chaos. It restores the psyche's sense of predictability. When the day has a form, the body relaxes. It stops looking for stimuli, stops rushing. Discipline is born from this relaxation. Stop building your life on emotions. Emotions come and go. Want to, don't want to, inspired, drained, believe, doubt. If you depend on this, you will always be in a loop. Act not from feeling, but from choice. Let choice become a form of peace. When internal protest appears, don't fight. Just reduce the pressure. Resistance is not an enemy. It is a signal. It says that you demand too much of yourself. Try to take a step more gently, but take it. If you can't walk a kilometer, walk 5 minutes. The main thing is not to lose movement. Remember, laziness is not the absence of strength, but the absence of meaning. When you don't see the why, the body doesn't move. Therefore, before demanding from yourself, remind yourself what all this is for. Discipline does not work without meaning. It should not be a punishment. It should be a choice that makes you alive. Gradually, you will notice that everything becomes calmer. Resistance leaves because the pressure disappears. You are no longer fighting with yourself. You are simply doing. Without slogans, without heroism, without self-flagellation. And then discipline ceases to be a heavy word. It becomes an internal support. It is no longer a struggle, but a form of respect. When you are not forcing, but leading. Not demanding, but guiding. Not pressuring, but supporting. Every time you show softness instead of criticism, discipline strengthens. Because at that moment, you learn to trust yourself. And trust is the soil on which will grows. Thus, step by step, chaos disappears, and a feeling appears that you can, not because someone inspired you, but because it has become quiet inside. When there is silence inside, order comes on its own. Within every person live 3 forces: the inner child, the adult, and the parent. In some, the child leads, seeking pleasure, avoiding pain, running from order. In others, the parent dominates, pressuring, forcing, blaming. And the adult sleeps. True discipline begins when the adult wakes up. They do not shout, do not demand, do not punish. They simply preside. They know that order is not a prison, but care. To become disciplined, you need to learn to be a parent to yourself, but not a cruel one, but a wise one. Not one who demands perfection, but one who supports when you fall. People lose their will not because they are weak, but because there is no figure inside them that can withstand the tension. When there is no inner parent, a person constantly looks for external control, a boss, a partner, a system, a goal. But this is always unreliable. Discipline that relies on the external collapses at the first crisis. The parent inside is the one who says calmly, "We will do this," without threats, without blame, without hysterics, only with confidence. And this confidence is not from strength, but from presence. It is the voice that does not require feelings to act. It simply knows that it is necessary. To awaken this part of yourself, you need to stop treating discipline as punishment. It is not so that you become better. It is so that you become more reliable. When you are reliable to yourself, anxiety disappears. When there is no anxiety, energy appears. And when there is energy, acting is easy. Try to listen to how you talk to yourself when you fail. Criticism often sounds there. "Didn't do it again," always putting things off. "You're weak." This intonation kills the will. The body does not react to aggression, it defends itself. For the will to turn on, the voice inside must become soft. Try to speak differently. We will start small. "I am here. I won't abandon you." These words are not about weakness, they are about maturity. Every time you show softness towards yourself, trust is formed inside. When there is trust, the body is ready to obey. It does not resist because it knows. It will not be forced. This is internal discipline, not a struggle, but agreement. Many try to become disciplined through control, but control is fear. It exhausts. When everything is subordinate to must, life loses its breath. Discipline without compassion turns into a prison. True discipline lives only where there is humanity. Look at it differently. Discipline is a form of care. When you get up on time, you are not torturing yourself. You are giving your body stability. When you eat on time, you are not restricting, but supporting. When you work in rhythm, you are not squeezing, but creating. Every ritual is a manifestation of self-love expressed in action. The compassionate parent does not give indulgences, but also does not punish. They simply stand nearby and say, "We are going." They know that the child will get tired, will resist, will sometimes want to give up, but they do not leave. This is discipline, constant presence without threats. If you want to become such a parent to yourself, stop demanding a result. Think not about what you want to achieve, but about how you want to live. Result creates anxiety and rhythm creates order. Gradually, you will feel how the internal tone changes. Where a verdict used to sound, support will appear. And will is born from this support. Not a flash, but stable internal warmth. When the voice inside becomes even, the body obeys willingly. The inner parent is not perfect. They don't always know the right way, but they are always nearby. They do not burn out, do not leave, do not lose you. They repeat, "We will cope." And this is the most important thing you can say to yourself if you want to become disciplined. Discipline is not about control. It is about maturity, about the ability to take care of yourself not according to mood, but according to decision. When there is a parent inside, life becomes predictable. And predictability is not boredom, but peace. Peace is energy freed from struggle. It is this energy that becomes the strength upon which will rests. When a calm parent lives within you, you no longer need to look for motivation, because you have already become the one who keeps their word. The body is the foundation of discipline. It stores the memory of every violation of rhythm, every overload, every postponed action. When the body is tired, willpower does not work. When the nervous system is exhausted, no plans work. Therefore, if you want to become disciplined, start not with the mind, but with the body. The brain is not the source of strength, but its conductor. Energy is born in the body, in breathing, in movement, in rest. When the body does not receive care, it retaliates with apathy. Every "I can't" often means not laziness, but fatigue. When there is no rhythm of sleep, nutrition, and breathing, the body is unable to maintain attention. And without attention, there is neither order nor focus. Discipline does not begin with control, it begins with care. The one who knows how to listen to their body knows how to manage their energy, and the one who manages energy no longer needs motivation. Therefore, if you want to become disciplined, first learn to rest. True rest is not inaction, but restoring contact with the body. Turn off the noise, slow down, sit down, feel your back, your breath, the warmth in your palms. Everything you are looking for in your thoughts is already in your body. When attention returns to the body, thoughts stop rushing. Clarity arises. Start noticing how your physical states affect your behavior. After lack of sleep, chaos. After prolonged hunger, irritation. After an hour of scrolling the screen, emptiness. This is not weakness of character, it is an energy failure. Restore the base and the will wake up on its own. Sleep is not a luxury, it is fuel for awareness. Without sleep, the brain does not distinguish between goal and threat. It spends energy on anxiety. If you want to be collected, build your evening. Let the last minutes before bed be quiet. The body needs to know that everything is under control. Movement is not sport, but a way to regain authority. When the body moves, the brain feels the rhythm. Rhythm is discipline in its purest form. Therefore, do not look for complex systems. Just walk every day. Let steps become your meditation. Nutrition is a form of respect for energy. When you eat in chaos, you feed chaos. When you eat consciously, even simple food becomes a source of calmness. Discipline is not a refusal, but a ritual of balance. If you want to change your life, start with a bodily routine. Wake up at the same time. Eat at the same time. Go to sleep at the same time. Repetition is the language in which the body feels secure. Security is the foundation of discipline. Everything that is repeated strengthens the nervous system. When the rhythm is stable, the need to pull yourself together disappears. You simply live in the flow. This is maturity, when action no longer requires effort. Stop fighting with fatigue, listen to it. It shows where you have violated the rhythm. Do not fight, restore. This is not weakness. This is strategy. When the body trusts you again, it gives energy willingly. Discipline is not constant must. It is the natural consequence of health, rhythm, and breathing. When the body is calm, the psyche obeys. When the psyche obeys, life is built. And then you begin to feel that effort is no longer needed. You don't force yourself to get up, you just get up. You don't coax yourself to work, you just continue. Everything becomes natural, and in this naturalness, a strength appears that never burns out. For discipline to become your nature, it needs a system. Not random efforts, not emotional surges, but a simple, reliable structure that holds even when there is no mood. In a world where everyone is looking for motivation, it is the system that makes a person free. It replaces chaos with decision, habit, and clarity. Start small. Don't build an ideal day. It doesn't exist. Build a predictable one. Let your routine be like breathing, uniform, but alive. When every action has a place and time, the psyche stops being anxious. It no longer needs to choose, argue, or postpone. It knows, now is the time for this, then for that. If you want to become disciplined, remove unnecessary decisions. Decide once. For example, you work in the morning, or you walk every evening, or you write before bed. When the decision is made, the brain is freed from internal dialogue. The hardest thing is not doing, but choosing. Therefore, choose once and for all. Don't complicate things. The system is not a list of 20 rules, but a few anchors that hold your life. One morning ritual, one evening ritual, one way to close the day. This is enough for energy to flow in the right direction. When building a structure, don't try to be perfect. The ideal kills the process. Make your order flexible. Let it withstand life, not break under pressure. True discipline is not about rigidity, but about rhythm. Create a space where chaos is impossible. You should have a place for work, a place for rest, a place for silence. Even if it's one corner, one desk, 1 minute, the body must understand where focus begins and where it ends. This is a simple but powerful form of internal respect. Gradually, your day will become a system that works without effort. You will stop pulling yourself together. You will simply enter the rhythm like breathing. When the structure is built in, action does not require effort. This is the mature form of discipline, not doing through force but doing naturally. For the system to take root, remove extremes. Don't demand perfection from yourself. Don't punish for failures. The main thing is to return. Returning is discipline. One missed day means nothing if you return without guilt. Learn to trust repetition. Repetition does not make life boring. It makes it stable. People are afraid of routine because they confuse it with meaninglessness. But routine is a support. It frees up energy for what is important. Until you build basic processes, creativity cannot manifest. The system does not kill freedom, it makes it possible. Without structure, any inspiration drowns in chaos. When the day has a rhythm, there is time for spontaneity. When everything is in its place, you can finally relax. If you want to build discipline forever, stop waiting for a high. Start doing, because it is already your identity. Not I am trying to be disciplined, but I live in order. When discipline becomes a part of your image, it does not require reminders. And then one day you notice that you no longer look for willpower. It just is. You don't think about how to gather yourself. You don't look for a mood. The day flows on its own. Everything is in its place. And in this simplicity lives true freedom. Calm, mature, silent. Discipline is not a tool, but a state of consciousness. When you are no longer chasing inspiration, not looking for external control, not pressuring yourself with internal judgments, but simply living in order, a quiet strength is born inside. It is not like motivation. Motivation pushes, discipline holds. True maturity begins where you stop fluctuating between must and don't want. You simply do. Not out of fear, not out of habit, but out of respect. This respect is not loud. It does not require recognition. It is like breathing, always present, even when you are not thinking about it. When life becomes predictable, you feel peace. Not because everything is under control, but because you no longer need to prove anything. You are no longer fighting with yourself. Every action becomes confirmation that you are in your place. Discipline is a mature form of love. It does not promise ease, it gives confidence. It does not make you iron, it makes you alive but stable. There is no fear in it, because it is not imposed. There is no pride in it, because it is not demonstrated. This is an internal form of silence from which stable energy is born. The world is chaotic. It constantly pulls attention. But the one who has a rhythm does not lose themselves. The internal structure becomes like a core that everything leans on. Without discipline, even wisdom turns into noise. Without order, even strength becomes destruction. When you are in rhythm, a feeling of freedom appears. You don't need to decide anew every day. You don't need to coax yourself. Everything flows naturally. The body knows when to get up. Consciousness knows when to work. The soul knows when to be silent. This is harmony, not external, but internal. Sometimes discipline requires refusal, from excessive promises, from fuss, from the desire to prove. These are not refusals out of fear, but out of clarity. You simply understand that order is more precious than chaos, silence is more precious than noise, depth is more precious than speed. And then life becomes different. You stop looking for balance because it is already there. Not ideal, not smooth, but alive. Everything goes its own way. And this is not indifference, this is maturity. Every day when you follow your rhythm, you confirm to the world that you are ready to live consciously. This does not require strength, only constancy. Everything great is born from repetition. If you want to feel true freedom, don't look for inspiration. Build order. Let every day be simple but clear. Let everything you do be the result of a decision and not a mood. And when someone asks how you manage to be collected, you will simply smile. Because the secret is simple. You stopped looking for motivation and started respecting the rhythm. If you recognized yourself in these words, write in the comments, "Я выбираю порядок." I choose order. Let this become your internal contract. Without promises, without slogans, without loud words, just a quiet decision. To live not from chaos, but from awareness. Because true order begins not with external control, but with internal silence. From this silence, will is born. From will, peace. And from peace, the freedom that no longer needs to be sought.